And good afternoon there, folks. Stampede Valkyrie coming back at you again with another interesting light find that I've come across. And I realized that I don't really have any Streethawk lights on my channel. Going through the couple hundred videos I have, and I haven't talked about the Streethawk. So let's talk about this guy. So what I'm looking at here is a Streethawk shorty bar, or short bar. The giveaway on that is that there's no center section and it's just two end caps. So this is the short version of it. Overall length on this, I want to say, is about 32 inches, 35 inches, somewhere in that ballpark. I'd actually have to look at the specs to be in particular, but this is the first look for me. I actually haven't done anything to this bar outside of just picking it up. And again, I picked it up specifically just because I don't have a shorty. I figured, why not? It's unique. But this is as come to me, or in the condition same as comes to me. It is fully optioned out. It's got alleys, it's got rear lights. Not sure if they work, but it's got rear lights, it's got front lights, it's got takedowns, it's got all the options the Streethawk had to offer, at least on the lower section. So we've got nothing blacked out here. My guess on this bar is that it's optioned with two fast rotators in the middle and two outer rotators that are slower. Again, I have not powered this on to confirm if everything works. We might be able to do that here in the video just to show you what's going on, but I figured I'd just give it a quick once over. Shorties are very uncommon. I'm not going to say it's the rarest Streethawk, but it's a rare Streethawk, and outside of like Firehawks and strobe hawks and all the other types of hawks that you'll find, these bars were frequently and affectionately called street hogs because of the amperage draw that they did. But very fun bar to work with. This is a good bar if you're new to the light bar collecting or want to get into the hobby. A very easy bar to work on, and still, even though these were, I think, went out of production sometime in the late 90s, possibly early 2000s, very, very easy to find parts for. So you can still find what you need to do to fix it, so on and so forth. So on that note, let's go ahead and power them up. I haven't done anything to this bar. Let's go ahead and power it up and see what it works. Or let's see if we can open it up and take a look and just see what the insides look like. So bear with me, and we'll keep going with this. So quick change of plans on this light. Power pack is currently recharging. Apparently I let that die last time I was working on it. So let's go ahead and pop this open and take a look and see what's going on. So give you a quick heads up as to what I'm going to do. Typically on these domes there's 4 screws. These are already out. I gotta have to replace that one, but we've got one here on the other side, one over there, one there, and then on the flip side another 4 screws. One there, that one's missing, one there, and one there. The one thing that's different about this light and the other lights is the fact that this aluminum band, which comes around here, which does kind of make this unique. It's just basically acting as a gap or filler between the two ends of the domes. That comes off by undoing that screw right there, and then it just kind of opens up like a clamshell and returns, and we'll get to that. So let's go ahead and take this apart, and we'll come back to it and take a look at what the insides look like. And as I said, the centerpiece here, is just once you undo that screw, this just comes off. As you can see, it just fell off the other side, but you get where I'm going with this. It's basically just a clamp, and all it's doing really is it's filling this gap between the two domes. So I come around to it, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's that gap between the two domes. It's essentially just two domes side by side next to each other, a little space in between. That's all that chrome topper is doing. But now that I actually have the screws undone, these should just up and lift off. This might be a little bit, there we go. Might be a little difficult because with one hand, but usually they just come off. There we go. And there's the guts of one. All in all, it doesn't look too bad. A little dirty. You can kind of get a build date on these two if you take a look at the motors. Federal's notorious for this, but let's take a look and see how right I am. What's the build date on that guy? I see 0397. Well, you see an upside down 7, a 6, backwards 3, and a 0. So take my word for it. 0397. That one says 0497. So we're looking at 1997. I was close, late 80s or late 70s. I'm not. Wow, I'm angling this one. late 90s. Let me get this stuff out of the way. We'll open up here the other side. Still has this inspection sticker. That's actually kind of interesting. I'm not sure what that number means. Hold on, let's get around and take a look at that. It might be the inspector number. But thank you, Jody, number 821, for building this bar for me to find in the future. So the same thing with this dome. This just comes up and off. One hand, always a fun thing to do. There we go. Domes aren't bad. I mean, they can be saved. So the inside of this one is where the guts live, for the most part. Or at least the power wire coming in. So we've got 2 more motors. Motors both read 0397, so definitely 1997. The wiring harness coming in, the FA2, which is, or is it FA2 or FA3? I'm trying to remember on these guys. FA3 flashers. These are known for probably flashing the rear lamps. We'll play with that here in a moment. But here's the basic setup. Outer rotator, inner rotator, and then the flat trap, if you want to call it a trapezoidal, but it's not really a flat, it's just a flat rectangular mirror. And then moving across, same thing. You can see where the wiring comes through and passes through this split. They weatherproof that by using some sort of silicone or some other rubber proxy in here to keep the water out. And then moving across your other 2 rotators. I'm willing to bet these are fast. Usually, not 100%. These are fast. These are probably slow. And then the slant mirror to give you that the workout. But front facing could be a flasher, more likely a takedown, considering how this bar is set up with amber and whatnot. Your alley light, your rear light, probably a flasher, another rear light, flasher, alley, and a front light. So again, all in all, not bad. Dirty, but to be expected. Taking a look just to see, it looks like there's something here missing. It looks like that actually is either, I don't know if that just fell out because I took it apart or what, but it looks like there's some damage here. For me, I'm not really going to worry too much about that. For those going out in the wild, if this was going to go back out, I'd probably silicone seal this. So this is where the screw bolts for one of the front pieces, which is probably the reason why there's no screw there. Same with this one. The front screw piece is missing, and that's probably why there's no screw there. I'm not really going to be all that broken about that. I mean, worst case scenario is I can go find another another end piece and just swap one for one, but I'm not going to worry about that. That usually happens because of over torquing. As you can see on this one here, on the inner one, there's a little bit of cracking there, but the insert's still there. This one's missing, so this one's been over torqued at some point. This one is completely gone. So that's the worst I'm seeing. Like, I'm not going to lie. So I give this a cleaning. Here's what it is. Let's see if my charger actually is giving me a little bit more life, and see if we can power this guy up. How's that? I think that sounds good. Let me go ahead here and stop this and get the charger on this. So I've resurrected the power supply. I'm just taking a look real quick. Kind of get the model number of that, right? FA3. Usually it'll tell me a little more information on the inside about the model number of the light outside of an inspection. The outer stickers are obviously long gone. I'm not 100% certain what the model number, if this is an SLH or SH, whatever. I'm assuming it's not an SH48, but yeah, stickers on this are long gone. I'd have to do a little bit of research to get the model number, but let's talk about the wiring, because this again looks like it's complicated and it's not. This is your typical 12-volt ground. Most often than not, when you have a problem with something here, if there's a bulb not blown out or a flasher's not blown out, it's getting a bad ground. And your first thing to always look at is, before you think something's bad, always check to make sure you have proper ground. You can do that with a meter. Just verify that you've got good ground. And even if you have good ground and it's not working right, might behoove you to unbolt the piece that it does ground to, spray a little bit of contact cleaner, work it a little bit, get the rust out of the way, and then tighten it back down. Just a quick tip for all those out there dealing with these lights. It's very, very common. So with that said, the wiring on this bar is actually very simple. It's very common to the aerodynamic. You got your black wire is going to be your 12-volt ground, and then there's a myriad of colors like the rainbow of other wiring. Your primary red will be the thick red wire. Usually it will spin 2 sets of these rotators, and the other red wire will spin either the inner or the outers, depending on how this is wired. Right now I've got the large or fatter gauge black wire and the obviously ground wire, which is to gauge everything connected. Let's see what this does. We're going to learn or experiment. All right, it does everything, and I'm right about the fact of it being fast on the center or inner and slow on the outer. That's what I seem to be. That seems to be the most common. I mean, minus the bird going to town there in the background. They're pretty quiet. I mean, they probably definitely need a little bit of grease, and I can take care of that. But it's nice to see that they're working. I mean, that's a slow. I'm coming around in the back. I have a bird that's definitely not happy with something back here. Probably making fun of this light bar. Relax, bird. I'll have it cleaned up. Let's get down and actually take a look and see what these mirrors are doing. Nice. Again, these rotators, these Arrow, or if you want to call it Streethawk style, Arrowhawk style, these were found in several lights for the time period. The Aerodynamics, the independent rotator Aerodynamics use these rotators. The ADL series, ADL series, the RQLs, a lot of the wrecker bars that were the independent rotator ones had these. Anything that wasn't a sealed beam had these. I'm just astounded at how much slower those outer ones go versus the inner ones. That's actually kind of trippy, especially when you're looking at it in the camera and then you look and see it in real life. That kind of gets me a little bit there. But these rotators were found in many other lights as well. The highlighter series, for example, I already mentioned the Arrowhawk, which are the 72-inch Aerodynamics use these rotators, so they're not uncommon. You can find these. There's mounting configurations that are a little bit different. One of the things that aren't found here in this bar is the sweeps that you could get for this bar, which you could install in the corners, and they would act like the traffic sweeps found more commonly on the Excalibur and the MX series Code 3 bars. But in a nutshell, I mean, this is the main show, and it all works, which is actually awesome. It probably needs to be cleaned up again. The rotators on this bar too are actually worth talking about while we've got them out. Let's turn it off. Give me a second. These guys are using H1 bulbs. Some of these did not use H1 bulbs, but some of them actually used, I want to say, a socket 795 or 796. It's been a bit since I've actually seen those, though. The more common version of these lights do exactly this, and they get these guys out. This little metal tab here actually comes off, and then that allows you to pull the bulb up, out, and disconnect it. And then what most happens, or what most commonly happens, is people use these retaining clips. And this bar has that one, and sometimes people get creative and they do something else to replace them. But thankfully I have a bag of these. Yep, got that one too. So they're all H1s, which is actually kind of neat to see. Let's test out the other functions, if I can figure them out. I'm assuming that the blue and the yellow, like the Aerodynamic, are going to be the either the end lamps or the alleys, while the green and the orange are either going to be end lamps or alleys. Again, I don't have this memorized, so let's take a look. If you do have federal wiring, a lot of it's pretty standardized from this time period. Your brown or brown with white stripes is typically either speakers, or if you don't have a speaker, auxiliary lighting. The gray is usually some sort of auxiliary function for like a custom light or something that gets installed. Your blue and your yellow, I believe, are your end lamps, could be front or rear facing, and green and orange is usually alley lights, while black is ground, and then red would be primary power. There may be another red like there is on this one, which could be used for another function, assuming it's installed. So while it does have a full wiring harness, this bar is not loaded with every single function the Arrow or that the Streethawk can use. So let's play around. Let's see if we can figure out what some of these other functions are. So we're going to start with orange, and I kind of cheated because I just wanted to verify that everything was fused properly, which is another good piece of advice. Always make sure everything's fused. In the event you have a dead short, you don't want to blow up your bar. Orange is connected. I know what it's going to do already. We're looking at the front of the bar. So the front of the bar, and we're going to be looking at the alley on the driver's side alley. So that should be what powers up. Bear with me a moment. There's my connections. Here we go. And we have an alley light that works. Awesome. So bear with me. Let's test it. If orange is the driver's side, then green should be passenger side. Let's find out. And I'm right. So green is passenger side alley, which is nice. So that means my alleys work. That's literally worst thing that happens with that is it's the most basic of circuits. It's either a bulb or a bad ground, but they're working. Great. Let's try the next ones. So as you can hear that clicking, that's the FA3. That's the blue line. And that means my FA3 is good. And the rear flashers are doing what they should be doing, which is awesome. So I know my FA3 is good. That is the blue line. Here's the wiring wire. Here's coming into the bar. Here's the wiring harness and moving the other parts. The blue line's coming into here. That's your primary ground, at least the primary ground for the bar. Comes into here, hits the FA3, and then this comes back into the wiring harness, and away it goes to the other two, this one and this one over here. But that's working. That's great. So my FA3 is good. That's always a good sign. Let's go ahead, and that's the blue line. I'm assuming yellow is the same, or the yellow is not disconnected, or is just disconnected. But let's test that. And now we've got the yellow connected, and yellow had made me a liar, and it is the front takedowns. So they're steady. They're just front takedown lights for this, which makes sense considering that this is an amber light, probably used in a plow truck or some other vehicle of that sort. Let's get down here and just... Those could use a buffing. No big deal. I have that. So all the functionality on this bar works. Give me a second here. Let's go ahead and shut this off. But again, very, very easy bar to work on. The worst thing about this bar that I can tell you right now, just overview, is the front connectors here and here are broken off. I'm not 100% certain what I'm going to do. I mean, I'll clean this bar up. I'll put the domes back on it. I'll give the domes a little bit of TLC. Just to see if I can make them look good again. I'll give the lowers a little bit of TLC. I'm not sure if I'll keep this all amber like it is, or if I'll swap out some other dome colors. But it's an interesting to look at. Very basic bar. Uncommon. I'm not going to call it rare. I know a lot of people start going, oh, is it rare? Well, it's uncommon. It's nice that everything works. Does need a little bit of cleaning. Does need a little bit of lubing. And I'll throw everything back together and see if we can get a 360 of this working. So as I go about wrapping this up, I've got the domes back on it. I've got the band back on. Like I said, this center band here is separates here, but it comes undone by that screw in the back and literally just pops open. For those of you that work on these bars, great piece of advice. While I do use a power tool, or you can use a power tool to zip these guys out, I don't recommend using power tools to zip them back in. My advice, if you want to avoid like what I've got here on this side and here on that side, if you want to avoid that, or at least slow it down because this plastic is old, tighten the fasteners by hand. Zipping them, like I said, is the same thing if you work on cars. Zipping them off is fine. Zipping them back in, generally not a good idea. Maybe just to snug them and then, you know, torque to spec if you're working on a car. But on these guys, generally don't zip them down. Just use your hand. It takes like an additional minute. So what? You'll like it better. You won't have to deal with what I have to deal with on these guys. But there it is. Let me give you the 360. It needs a bath. Mechanically, everything works. Does need a bath. Needs a polish. I'll get on that. I may actually go ahead and even replace the stickers. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's that important to me to do that. And we'll go from there. The other thing I get asked a lot as I finish this walk around are Wolo series bars. So Wolo made a bar, I think they were calling it the Infinity series. The Chinese bar. They're KOs of the Streethawks. They're actually very, very, very common. I find them all over the place. The Wolo bars are China bars. Take that for what it is. They're not really well made, and oftentimes you'll see people with Wolo bars trying to pawn them off as being Streethawks. They're not. I also do not believe that the Wolo domes will carry over on the Federal domes. I don't believe they're the same. I have a Wolo dome somewhere. For the life of me, I can't find it right now, which is, you know, that's life. I think everybody can say that at one point or another. But wrapping things up, there it is. It largely works. One of the nice things too to look for, if you're curious if you have a Wolo dome or a Streethawk dome, is all Federal Signal domes have a marking on it right there. That one says FSC14. There may be some changes depending on the colors. You might see FS, some other letter, 14. I'm not sure if C14 is the designation for all the domes, but any Federal dome should, it may not be on this side. Where are we at on this guy? Oh, it's on the other side over here. Any Federal dome will have the marking. So if you're ever curious, always look for that. FSC14. So actually, while we've got this going, let's go ahead and pause this real quick. I have another Streethawk, and we'll read what the number says on that one. So I'm doing a little bit of cheating here. I got another bar I've been working on. There's another Federal dome, FSC14. So FSC14 for red, it doesn't look like that changes. For clear, that one actually says FSC23 because it's a centerpiece. And the blue, FSC14. So there you go. Quick little overview of the other light that I've been working on. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And if anybody has any questions on these, let me know. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. But that's it. I haven't posted anything in a while. I figure I'd throw this up. You guys can see what's going on. This is probably going to be a winter project bar for me. Kind of slow on some other avenues. Shouldn't be too hard to fix, and we'll go from there. But on that note, you guys have a good weekend, good holiday, and everybody stay cool out there. Stampede Valkyrie signing off.